Arizona police are supposed to start enforcing that state's controversial new immigration law on Thursday. Meanwhile, a federal judge is considering two separate motions aimed at preventing it from going into effect. For legal analysis, let's bring in criminal defense attorney Keith Sullivan and defense attorney and former prosecutor Karen DeSoto. Good morning to both of you.
Hi. Good morning.
Okay, we have the U.S. District Judge right now, Susan Bolton, hearing the arguments. Last week, she appeared to be focusing on three key issues, those being first, the constitutionality of state enforcement, the increased burden on law enforcement in terms of the real-time checking of immigration status, and the public safety issues involved in human trafficking. She has indicated, you guys, that some of this law may stand, other parts not. Keith, how do you see this thing going down? Are there parts that you think she will absolutely say, that's out of here?
I think that for the most part she's going to uphold the law. There are some criminal added provisions that she may strike. Remember, there's 14 sections to this statute. The one that the national media is concerned about, and I guess the world, because Mexico and Latin America and Central American countries have filed amicus briefs, which are friend of the court briefs, is the reasonable suspicion clause after there's been a lawful stop, and that she's going to uphold.
Okay, you're saying no?
Well, I have so many issues with this law, only because the reasonable suspicion standard is just like this vague term, and it's not so much that you're doing it in the course of pulling somebody over or there's a crime afoot. It says lawful contact. Well, what does that mean? What does reasonable suspicion of being an immigrant mean? How do you know if somebody is an immigrant or they're not? What are the telltale signs? Usually in the law we have these things. Even if you pull somebody over, there's furtive movements, it's at night. How do you know somebody who speaks Spanish is somehow an immigrant over somebody who doesn't?
Well,
It's America.
Keith, I guess what a lot of people are wondering, and it seems to be not clarified, if somebody is pulled over, are they pulled over for breaking a law other than this reasonable suspicion? I mean, do they have to be pulled over for something legitimate in the eyes of law enforcement?
Absolutely.
So that it's not like somebody walking down the street that just looks suspicious. You disagree?
I absolutely disagree with that, because the law is so vague and so broad that it gives the police discretion basically to say, hey, look, that person looks like an immigrant. Do you have your papers? That's the problem with the law. I'm not saying that there should not be specific laws, but the way that it's written is too broad and too general, and you can't just ask somebody from your papers. I mean, it just sounds like Nazi Germany. Do you have your papers? Can't do that to people.
But the law is clear that it says you can only inquire about if a reasonable suspicion occurs, and you can inquire after there's been a lawful contact, after there's been a lawful stop. And the governor issued a statement saying that reasonable suspicion is not premised upon race, color, or national origin.
Okay, so
it has to be something else.
If that's the case, let's talk about let's talk about a traffic violation.
Okay.
Somebody runs a red light. There's a reasonable reason to pull them over.
Right.
If that has to be the precedent before asking somebody about their nationality, their origins, you know, if they're legally here or not, you worry that that's not even going to happen.
That I do, because that's not how it's written. Usually we have years of case law that tell you what is reasonable suspicion. You don't have this here. In a criminal case, I know that if there's furtive movements, it's at night, you're in a bad area, I know that there's reasonable suspicion. Here we don't have that, and there is no way to determine whether somebody's American or Hispanic or an immigrant. How do you know?
This begs more discussion, which we'll bring in our 10 o'clock hour. Keith, thank you very much. Karen, thanks so much. Bake her a wish. Next, you're going to